And we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wheel Talk, the podcast with a guy in a wheelchair and a girl in a wheelchair. Hello, Brittney.
Hey Fred, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I've deliberately used a provocative title for this podcast. Paralysis is easy. Change my mind. And I wanted to talk about. I had an idea for a YouTube video about making something like this, and I thought I'll just shoot the shit with you, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So the premise is paralysis is easy, okay? So if it was like a lot of people think, just your legs don't work and the mobility issues that we face, I think paralysis would be easy. Getting around in a wheelchair is not that hard. Wheelchair skills are quite easy to learn, and that is really just the tip of the iceberg. Now, here comes the crux. When you add in spasticity, which is my biggest complaint, nerve pain, bowel issues, bladder issues, sexual function, skin issues, pressure sores, all of that stuff, they build up, and spinal cord injuries can be a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? They really are. So I guess what I wanted to discuss with you was, if it was just your legs didn't work, how easy would paralysis be compared to, the reality?
You know what? If I always say walking is overrated, and it's not even like a joke, because and this is like, for me, I have to say this is about being a paraplegic, because I don't know what the perspective of a quadriplegic is, or how hard that would be in terms of just loss of mobility. Because, I've watched my friend try and eat without hand function, and it looks pretty frustrating. So I think being a paraplegic is easy. I mean, you get good parking most of the time. You can use your arms to get yourself around, which is okay. You do have pain here and there, but it's tolerable. So I think the loss of mobility isn't a giant factor in your loss of quality of life as a paraplegic. And you get great things from being so visible and being in a wheelchair. So if your mobility issues aren't really that big of a deal, and you're highly visible, and you get a lot of the benefits of being disabled, I think that if it was just loss of mobility, I'd be like, sweet. I'm like, this has just opened up so many doors for me and made me wonderfully conspicuous. So I think it would be amazing and super easy.
Yeah, right. That's what I thought as well. So my biggest complaint is the spasticity, and sometimes my spasms prevent me from doing transfers smoothly. Yeah. They make me seem more disabled than I feel, you know what I mean, in certain situations. And spasticity isn't a thing that a lot of people know about. So when they see your legs moving, you're like, oh, I thought your legs didn't work, and they're like, yeah, well, I wish that was the case sometimes, And I've spoken about the benefits of spasticity, lack of muscle loss, and there's sort of lots of benefits of mild spasticity, but when it gets really bad, it's a real pain. But yeah, I was thinking the other day just how easy it would be if if you could sit on hard surfaces, if you didn't have any nerve pain, if there were no skin issues, no pressure sore issues, you could just wee and poo normally and have sex normally, and all it was just transfers would be a dream. I think the seed was planted when I saw some people do transfers without spasticity. I'm like, oh my god, if only, that would be the dream for me, right? So I just remember thinking, oh man, maybe I could make a video. It would be like a deliberately provocative title, Paralysis is easy. And then I was like, let's just talk about it. So yeah, like I say, I think, without repeating myself, that.
Yeah, I think my cousin is in a wheelchair, and she has muscular dystrophy, a type of muscular dystrophy. And so she really does just have loss of mobility. And I want to say that I'm not going to say her life is easier, because there's a lot of different things, because she has full body loss of mobility. So she can't really go outside of the house very effectively by herself or anything like that. But I want to say that in some ways it looks easier from the outside, because she can go to the bathroom when she wants. She still has full bladder and bowel function, full sexual, feeling and all of that stuff. So I just think that those kinds of things make a big difference. Even just being sick, and not having a cold is not that big of a deal. I can get up and do my bowel routine. But sometimes when I've been super nauseous, or just, so sick that I feel like I can't sit up without being dizzy and just feeling like death. And yet I have to get up and get my ass on the toilet and put myself in the shower and all these things that I'm just I don't have the energy to think. let alone be like, okay, now I have to time when I'm going pee, and I have to think of how much I'm going to drink so that I don't get a bladder infection. And I have to, still do my bowel routine so that I stay regular, and like all these things. And when I watch like somebody that's sick, that's like able-bodied, like my husband or something, like just sleep and watch movies
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not
yeah.
pee for 12 hours, and I can bring him his food and like do whatever. It just
Mm.
seems so restful. I'm like, man, that
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
beautiful. I want to do that. So yeah, all these things that like people just don't think about. Even like me being sick right now, coughing. So I am paralyzed from the chest down. So I have less ability to cough.
Mm.
Like I have my diaphragm, but finding ways to increase the inter-abdominal pressure in order to actually have a productive cough to get the shit out of my lungs. Like I I literally probably lost like 5 pounds in 3 days because I'm
Mm.
working so hard just to get the shit out of my lungs. And people don't
Yeah.
think about that. And then, I annoy the crap out of my family because I'm coughing constantly, and I'm like I'm bending over to put my knees into my stomach and my chest so that like I have more pressure in my stomach to cough and stuff like that like people just don't think about, right? And I'm
Mm.
very lucky that I have a very productive cough just normally. I can like breathe in and cough normally. But in order to really cough, like stuff from deep in my lungs, I have to really work at it. And it's so annoying.
Yeah, yeah. 100%. I agree. You made me think about a time when I had diarrhea, and when I get ill, my spasms kick up loads.
Oh,
So I'm trying to get onto the toilet, which is a transfer that I do like every day, right? So you
yeah.
just swing your bum onto the toilet, but then my spasms, they're so rigid, and I'm like, guys, lads, come on, work with me here. If you don't cooperate, we're going to end up in a whole world of shit here. Please, literally, I just need to get onto the toilet. And they're like, "Ugh." And I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, like, it's your body's working against your best
Yeah.
interest. And I'm like, I need to get on the toilet. Come on. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then the increased spasticity and like just the increase, it just sucks. Like you've been ill recently with a spinal cord injury, and it sucks, right? It does
Yeah.
objectively suck worse than being sick when you're able-bodied, right?
Hmm.
I think that's
Oh, it definitely does. And like spasms are dangerous, like you say, like for the transfers and stuff. And when you were like on all those cobblestones and stuff, like people just don't realize like you have to pay attention where your feet are all the time because they're falling off and you're just trying to wheel. Like I'm trying to get
mm,
from point A to point B, and my feet are literally like bouncing like crazy and falling off my foot plate, and I'm trying to make sure they're still on. And like it's just really annoying. Yeah. Um I get really bad nerve pain too when I'm sick. And it's literally like, I don't know what it would be. I don't know what it actually feels like to get like tasered with a cattle prod. But
yeah.
like my level of injury, I get I get nerve pain sometimes where it feels like this is how if I like, if you had like electrical signals going down to like your level of injury and then spreading out all around.
Mm,
But like super intense. Like it is, I don't know, I can't even describe it. It's like the most intense electrical activity around my chest, and it just feels like I'm being electrocuted. And whenever I'm sick, for some reason it goes crazy for like 2 days. And it's like Chinese water torture. Like if there's like one drop of water on your forehead,
mm,
you're like, that's not bad. And I can handle it for like 6 hours before it gets to be like, okay, that's starting to be really painful.
mhm.
And then 12 hours and 24 hours and 36 hours, and I'm like, and I'm just like, I can't handle it anymore. One time it lasted for 5 days, and like I was a mad
Wow.
woman. Like you couldn't even like, if you came near me, I'm like, fucking get away from me. Like no joke. I was a lunatic. Like I've
Yeah,
never
yeah.
been so close to wanting to kill myself. Like I'm not joking.
Wow,
Like it
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
that bad. And then it goes away and I'm fine, but I'm like, this is what it feels like to have something that's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just this torture. Like people are just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I would rather die than sit through another one of these like electrocutions.
Yeah.
So luckily it only happens for like 2 days usually when I'm sick, but like, oh man, I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
it's the worst. So yeah, I'll take the cold. Give me the
Yeah.
phlegm, give me the whatever, take away all the other
Yeah.
shit.
That's relatable what you said. I remember feeling like that sometimes when my spasms it just feels like someone it's like God, I don't know. We call it God, whatever. God has like a cattle prod or some just like evil invisible like little gnome has just got a cattle prod. Like and
Yeah.
your leg kicks off and it can happen at any time. Like Chris is used to it now. thank goodness. But like, we'll just be sat watching a movie, and it's just normal. And I'm like, how is that normal? And it's so relatable when you said that, what you just said. When I very first got injured, again, I just thought, okay, I'm paralyzed. I could probably deal with that. And when my legs started moving, ironically, I was like, ooh, that's promising.
Yes. Yeah.
And it got to the point, I've said this before, trigger warning, whatever. But I got to the point where I was like, I feel like the only way I can stop my legs moving is to, stop my heart beating. Like I got to the point where I was just like, I'm being tortured. I'm literally being tortured. I'm being cattle prodded every 5 minutes. And, the baclofen helped, and there's, stretching helps, it's manageable now. In fact, another idea for a video, I don't know if it's more manageable or it's got better or I've got stronger or it's just my new normal. I don't know. I remember it being so much worse. I remember like the spasms being so much worse, but they still suck. But like, I think you just get used to it. But it is a slow, torturous ordeal, just getting electrocuted like all the time. And like, just randomly, you just be chatting to someone, and they'll be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine. It happens. At least 5-6 times an hour. It's just it's fine." But it looks weird.
It totally looks weird. I remember being in the hospital when I was first paralyzed, and I had this nerve pain. Like, I did not know how I was going to live with this. Like, I would scream. Like, I would scream and flail like on the bed because I had never felt this before. Like, I didn't know what this was. And my mom's like, what's happening to her? And like the doctors were like explaining that it's nerve pain and it feels very uncomfortable. And then you just, I don't think it's gotten any better. I think I've just gotten used to the feeling of it. And I've done a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy. Like, I've talked about this a lot before, where you actively reduce your reaction to the pain so that the brain centers that are responsible for reacting to the pain, emotionally reacting to the pain, get smaller. Because if you react to the pain negatively, then those brain centers, you build neural networks, like they actually grow. You're like building pathways in your brain that say this hurts. And so I had to be like, ooh, this is interesting. That's an interesting feeling. This tickles so much. Or like, you have to talk to yourself about in different ways than you would normally talk to yourself about pain. I can handle this. It will get better. This is easy, different stuff like that. So I've had to go through a lot of that just on my own, in order to manage my nerve pain, because the medication was just no. Like, I almost died driving like twice because it just like puts you out. Like, I'm going to fall asleep right now, like on the side while I'm driving. And I'm like, okay, I'd rather have the nerve pain than chance dying with my children in the car. So let's not do that. But like nerve pain is annoying. Spasticity is super annoying. And those are just like two of the things that of the many like secondary complications that come with spinal cord injury, which is crazy. Like, there's so many.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing we were going to talk about was you made a video this week, very raw, very honest, about you being in a funk. It was well received. I just wondered if you wanted to expand on that a little bit. And also, side note, does anyone else, put it in the comments, does anyone else think that Brittney's voice sounds really nice when it's husky? Like, sometimes I get a husky voice and I love it. I'm like, oh yeah, I wish my voice would sound like this all the time. But I think it sounds a little sexy.
I'm a very Janis Joplin right now. It's okay. It was worse the other day. So it's now gotten back. It's like, it's volume a little bit, so it's better. But so I'm in a funk, and mostly just because I'm like, I don't even know whether it's overwhelmed. I'm like overwhelmed with like less to do than what I should be overwhelmed with. But for one, it's the Disneyland video. I've talked about this a bunch of times, but the problem with that is I did something in my head about how the story needed to come out, and I didn't have enough footage for the story I wanted to tell. And so I was just like, because I only wanted to tell the Disneyland story, just about Disneyland. And then I'm like, why am I doing this? I did so many things in California. Like, we did something different every day. And me and Jamie were by ourselves all the time because Joe was chaperoning a boxing club thing. So I'm like, why am I leaving out this whole part of the story where like I was solo with my daughter and we just like went wherever we wanted to. And so I'm just going to do this, talk to the camera and recap my story. Cause somebody's like, why are you worried so much about it? And I remember you telling me to do that. But I was like, there's too much to tell. I have too much stuff. But I'm like, why can't I just go day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 and tell what happened? Because it's all interesting. And yeah.
Do it quick before your voice goes back to normal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, here's my sexy voice. And then, yeah, so it was that. Now I've kind of like overcome that stupid mental block. So I'm going to be good. I'm going to get off here and do that video. And if I don't have it out by like Wednesday, you guys can be like, what the fuck, Brittney? So anyway, you can bug me. And then we are trying to buy this investment property, which I said in the video.
Before we move on, I just wanted to say, Marco says, I think Britt's latest video was incredibly profound and made an everlasting impact.
That's so crazy to me.
But I liked it too.
Yeah. Vulnerability really is a superpower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think one of my Patreon members, Chris, who's been there from like the very beginning, him and his wife are so awesome. He was mentioning like that it's so hard to. He always feels like he's doing bad because he watches these YouTubers, and he's like, even your channel, you always talk about how great things are and everything, and sometimes you leave out when you're struggling. And he was like, this helped me so much because I'm really struggling right now. And I was just like, wow, I guess there has to be a full picture of somebody's life in a wheelchair. Otherwise, it's just not reality. Because there's some people that I follow that it's like all doom and gloom. And I'm like, oh my God, you're terrible. And then other people that are just like, everything's awesome, like toxic positivity. And I'm like, yeah, I really need to balance it out. So I think I'm going to do a better job of just being like, I had a really shitty day and this is why. And, just talk about the emotions of it. And I have talked about the negative emotions in like with paralysis, but I don't actually like talk about it in situations that actually come up. So yeah, it was really well received, which is just another one of those like things you cannot predict the algorithm. It doesn't matter how hard you work on the video. You could work on it for like, 20 hours and it could get no views. That one, I just like was on my phone. I didn't even put it in my editing software. I just like uploaded it from my phone. And it was like really well received. So,
well, I think people really appreciate vulnerability and honesty, and I really appreciated it too because I opened up. In fact, it's interesting. Do you ever think, this is a little tangent, but like on Patreon, I put like a really nice like long comment saying, I've been feeling in a bit of a funk lately as well.
I loved that.
It was great, but like because it didn't go on YouTube, like no one, like I guess there's a limited audience to see the comment. And comments in a way, so I guess like the Patreon comments, it's like stay on Patreon. That's just a little side tangent. We can get back to the main topic, but like, what do you think about that?
I struggle with Patreon a lot because I want to be more active on there, but it's also just another thing for me to do, and for me another platform for me to engage with. I really like being able to get to know people more intimately because I have like community hangouts or whatever, like Empowered Para hangouts. And there's literally like 5 of us on there most of the time, sometimes even less. Like it was just me and Chris and his wife for like 3 times. So I know Chris really well. I know Samantha really well. She's like another one that comes to my community things. So these people, like when they email me, like I know who they are and they're sharing stuff with me about their actual lives. And it's just a different thing. James has obviously been there since the beginning. Well, not quite at the beginning, but like there's Ryan. There's a couple of people that I know really well from that platform. And it's just hard to do that on YouTube. Like you just can't interact with people in that way. So I love Patreon for that. But I just am scared that if it, like right now it's in a sweet spot where there's like, not very many people and I can interact on a really genuine way with each of them. But like when you get so many people, even like say 100 people on Patreon that would come to those community hangouts, like it would be really hard to get to know people. So I don't know what the answer is because this is my favorite part. Like interacting with individuals is my favorite part. And I just don't know how to continue to do that as I grow as a YouTuber and not like, drain all of my energy into other people. So yeah, I'm not really sure, but I love the Patreon comments because people are much more likely to share intimate details of their lives on Patreon, like way higher likelihood that they're going to share real stuff. Yeah,
exactly. So I felt like I almost wanted to like copy and paste my reply into the YouTube comment section because I was like, oh, there's lots of people that like might relate to that just because Fred seems always happy in his videos, you know what I mean? And I do try and like balance the highlights with the lowlights. I feel like I do a fairly good job of that. But yeah, just I don't know. I just like, there's like a limited audience that's going to see that. And I don't know. And then like sometimes I get some really nice comments on my Patreon, but they don't like make it onto the YouTube. And I don't know. It's a weird dynamic. But again, I love the Patreon. I've got a few new members recently, and they just seem so lovely and kind. And I just love the community over there. It's great. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I've one of the content creators that I follow on Patreon. I'm part of hers. She has like different levels, and she shares so much stuff on Patreon. Like she has so much content on there because she loves the community so much. And she's she's a bazillionaire, but she's got like this small community on Patreon that's probably like thousands of women versus like hundreds of thousands or millions of women. But she loves it. Like she's just like, Patreon people are my people. I can say stuff and not be canceled. Like you people get me, right? And I think that's one of the things that I love about Patreon too, is like I'm much more likely to share things that I wouldn't necessarily share, that I'm afraid to share on a public platform more like this, about my family or just about like, say, political beliefs or like my religious beliefs or whatever it is that, you know, I'm just less likely to share because people are kind of mean on the internet. But Patreon, I think people that are like paying to support you really do support you. Even if it's just $2 a month, like that's not expensive, but you know.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, someone messaged me recently about, because I was saying about my at the end of my last video how my legs were relaxed because I had like a little Buenos Dias in the morning, and he was like, "Oh, tell me more about the Buenos Dias." And basically, I was saying, "Listen, I've got some videos on my Patreon that are like more about like sex and sort of ejaculation, like the ins and outs of it." And I just sent him the video link. I didn't want to be like, oh, hey, I didn't want to funnel him to like a paywall. I just said, listen, if you want to contribute, that'll be great. If you can't afford it, here's the link to the video anyway. It's an unlisted. Hopefully it helps you out. And then he ended up joining anyway because I thought that was really nice. And I was like, oh, sweet. So that was really cool.
I just want to address this comment.
I never want the money to be a reason why people can't see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I try and
I do put a lot of stuff for like all members on my Patreon. But anyway, so this says usually YouTube channels have a join button where you can join for like $5 a month, but both of you don't have that. So that's called YouTube memberships, Marco. And the reason that I like Patreon better is because YouTube takes a portion of your money. So if you guys are willing to support me as a creator, then I hope that you would want that money to go to me and not to YouTube, because we only get a percentage of that. And I don't know what the percentage exactly is, but Patreon takes vastly less percentage, like vastly less percentage from you guys, so that you know that your money is going to the creator and not to some big corporation. And I love YouTube, but I think they make a lot of money already. So.
Yeah, I think did I mention this last week? I think I did, about how YouTube was like saying, "Oh, we're going to put mid-roll ads in your videos to make you more money," and I'm like, I don't want that. Like, how do I not sign up for that? Like, don't put ads in the middle of my videos when I don't want them. I don't want you to do that, but like it'll make you like an extra, 5 cents a month. I'm like, I'd rather not. I'd rather my audience didn't do that.
I know, it's crazy. YouTube ads are like, unless you have tons of views, you don't make any money. Like if I've had a video go viral, I've made money on videos. But like at this point, I have 30-some thousand subscribers and I make like $150 a month off of like ads. And I get thousands of watch hours every month. Like you have to have so many watch hours and you have to stay super relevant and you have to make sure you're putting out content constantly. And that's why like it's a numbers game sometimes with YouTube, because the more content you put out, the more chance you have the algorithm picking it up. The more the algorithm picks it up, the more people will watch it. It's like a whole thing that it exhausts me. So I'm just like, that's why sometimes, like I said before, sponsorships for me sometimes seem like a better thing, because I can review a product or something like that people might like, and I'm also getting paid for it. I'm getting all the money. You know what I mean? Rather than some company advertising on YouTube on my channel and me getting like sense for it. It's just, monetization of the platform is just a really annoying, complicated thing. But yeah, we can move away from this topic.
Yeah. So go back to what you were talking about. You were in a funk, and then you were talking about real estate, and then I interrupted. Sorry.
Oh yeah. So anyway, I'm just like trying to buy a rental property, which I don't think we're going to buy that rental property anymore that we put an offer on, because when we went to do the home inspection, there was like an active leak from the bathroom upstairs to the kitchen. So like the ceiling in the kitchen was wet. I'm like, oh,
terrible.
great. So then you would have to like, even though the leak got fixed that day, like the plumber came that day, you still have to like fix the ceiling because there's like a big brown wet spot. So like you have to cut out the drywall and do all this stuff. And I'm just like, it took a house that was like a decent deal to something that's just going to like take a lot of work. And it's hard because I can't get in the properties because I'm not buying wheelchair accessible things. I'm just buying things that are good deals. And so I have to be able to like think of how I'm going to get all this work done with contractors, because Joe works full time, doesn't have time to be going in and fixing houses and stuff. He'll do little things if the toilet breaks or whatever. But so it's an interesting like dynamic trying to figure out how to manage being in a wheelchair and do the things you want to do. And sometimes your wheelchair, this is a good segue to our next topic, is actually a barrier. Like it is actually a barrier to some of the things that you want to do. And some of those barriers are solvable through whatever. Most of the time it just costs money. Like you can do anything you want if you have enough money. But it's just really hard because all the people that I watched that were like super successful real estate investors, they always started by like buying a house that was like undervalued and that had a lot of like cosmetic work to be done. And then they did the cosmetic work themselves, and then it increased in value. And then they were able to refinance and pull out their money that they put into the house and go buy another rental property. And I just can't do that because I can't get into the house and do the work myself and stuff. So I make less money when I have to hire contractors. B, it's like all the headache of me hiring an agent to go show the property and all that stuff because I can't get in there. I could get Jacob to lift me in for people to look at the property and stuff. So trying to figure out that stuff. But all of this stuff is just like going around and around in my head and trying to figure out how to do it. So I was in a funk just because I was busy with that and overwhelmed and, this new territory. And then I was sick and there's just like a lot of things. My kids are growing up. Like Jacob is now like almost 17 and he's just like, I don't know. It's just like hard to watch him growing up and hanging out with his friends. I don't see my kids that much because they have lots of friend stuff. And like I said, I try and drive Jamie and do whatever, but it's just like it's so amazing to watch them grow up, but also really sad to know that like I only have a couple more years left with my kids. And then, and then you go, then what? Like, then what do I do with my life?
Yeah. It's interesting. That is, So, when you were talking, then it brought up something. I said to Chris, I was like, are you nervous about having kids with a guy in a wheelchair? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, okay. And I was like, how could I make it easier? And I was just, and like I said to you last week, I think about like, I've got no real desire to be like super rich. I feel like I am I feel abundant, and that's like stopping me from chasing monetary gain for no reason. But then I was like, wow, if I had loads of money, that would make being paralyzed loads easier. It's making having a kid loads easier because like she'd be like, oh, what about the things that you can't do? Like, what if it snowed loads? And I'd be like, well, I just pay someone to clear the snow. Like, what if we couldn't afford? What if she said the nannies they provide here in France, they're called nounous. What if they were in Avoriaz?
They provide nannies?
Well, it's part of like a government-funded thing. I don't really know too much about it, but it's heavily subsidized. You have to pay for it, but it's heavily subsidized.
Oh.
But what if the Nunu was in Avoriaz? Like that's like up the hill and it's in the snow. Like, you wouldn't be able to do that. And I'd be like, well, if I had loads of money, we could just pay someone, a private nanny, to just come and look after the kid. What I'm saying is like, if I had loads of money, then like a lot of problems would be solved. Like about, be like you say, like being paralyzed stops you from doing many things, but having lots of money, you could just pay people to do things that you can't do.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, well then what, and then all of a sudden I was like, wow, what if I was really wealthy? Then that would make life a lot easier. But again, you don't have to be like, again, Brian makes makes he is a wonderful father, and you're a great mum. You don't have to be super wealthy. You don't, you can be paralyzed and be a good parent. But it just suddenly planted the seed of like, oh, that would, that's something I probably could do. Like is make loads of money. I don't know how, but like, if I had like the brain power of like, Einstein or something, I could, I've got a laptop, I've got an internet connection. I could probably make him, a shitload of money, like using my brain power. But I just don't have the drive and the desire to, because I feel abundant, But then, when that seed was planted, I was like, that might help. Do you know what I mean?
Well, my question is like, do you need a lot of money to have a kid? Because if you don't work most of the time, why can't you just take care of the kid at home?
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. I don't know. I just, yeah.
Or you don't want to be like a stay-at-home dad kind of thing.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think
it's not hard.
You're right.
Yeah.
Like financial freedom does give you many options. I just I think the point I was trying to make was like I've never been motivated by money. Until I just thought, oh well, if I had like a shitload of it, that would make being a dad easier.
It would for sure. I mean, there's so many things that you can do as a parent with money, regardless of your disability, that make life easier. I mean, my cousin had a nanny that lived with them forever. And when her kids were little, and it was so nice. And if they traveled, the nanny traveled with them. And it was just so much easier to have somebody helping out with all three kids when they were like carrying bags and all of that stuff. So yeah, money, if you have a problem and you have enough money, you don't have a problem. Like I read a book that basically said that said like, money doesn't buy happiness, but it solves problems, and the less problems you have, the more happy you generally are. So I think that there's just like, you don't have to strive for like, millions of dollars, but abundance and financial independence or security, I think is a thing to strive for. But what that number looks like is different for everybody, because like I live in a house that like has an original kitchen. I've never like, you know what I mean? I changed the carpets because I didn't want the carpets in here. I don't have like fancy stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I look at sometimes other people that like are doing all these crazy renovations and doing, all this stuff. And I'm like, how do they afford to do this stuff? Like, I just don't get it. And like I said, I feel abundant too, but I don't have all of these like things that I guess I would want if I had buttloads of money. But I also don't know whether I would want that. Like I said to Joe the other day when we were watching TV and it showed like a drone view of like this really ritzy, like Hollywood neighborhood. And I was like, even if I had all the money, would I want to live there? Would I want to live in a house that big? I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know what I would actually do. Or would I be like Keanu Reeves, who lives in like a trailer, like a mobile home by the beach, and all the money he makes, he like literally gives it away. He does movies to just make money to then give it away to people. And it's like crazy.
Yeah. There's a comment here that really made me smile from James. Fred, from the little we've learned about you, you will be an awesome dad.
Yes.
Really. Thank you.
Yeah.
That really means a lot.
You would be a good dad. Yeah. And it's so much. I know your point was trying to be like, if you had money, it would be easier, but you could take care of a kid super easily in a wheelchair. Yeah. There's certain things that are hard, but yeah.
Also, I think that I had learned on a podcast recently a little phrase which was really good, like having things. It's not having things that is great; it's getting things. You know what I mean? Like, so like, having money is okay, but like getting money, like earning money is better than having money. You know what I mean? Like having a purpose and getting things, and also having challenges. Like imagine if you just like had all the money, you just paid someone to look after your kids, you wouldn't have the challenges to overcome. You wouldn't have the like. And life is made of all these little challenges, all these little building blocks that I learned so much from Brian's channel about all the things that he does. He's like paralyzed from here, so in a way I've got like a superpower because I can I can sit up. But the way he like lifts up his little girl when she was a baby, and I just thought like that's what life's about. Life's about the challenges. So yeah, in a way I was like, oh, you know what, like if I had loads of money I could buy my way out of life's challenges. But that's what life is about, overcoming the challenges.
I love this comment here that said Balance is hard to find. Works in everything. More money brought me more problems. Like it now where I just get by. Do not want a new car or no toys. I do think that there is like more money, more problems. And I think that that like happens a lot of the times if you don't pay attention to lifestyle creep. Like I have a friend that is a very successful real estate investor, but he has never increased his spending. So like whatever his lifestyle cost him 10 years ago, that's what it still costs him now. Like he didn't increase his spending, but he increased his like net worth by a lot. But his family just lives so simply, and that doesn't usually end up buying more problems. But a lot of people, when they get more money, they have this lifestyle creep thing where they're like, more money, nicer car, bigger house, more vacations, and all this stuff. And then it's just like more debt, more kids and things, higher expectation to have like brand name clothes and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, that would be terrible. I'm like, I don't want more shit to clean. I don't want more payments. I don't want nice clothes that I, freak out about putting in the dryer. Like I just want Value Village, like thrift store. Like we have like secondhand stores here. I will buy all my clothes at a secondhand store. And if I buy it, I know I'm not going to worry about putting it in the dryer and wrecking it. And that's me. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I said this a couple of episodes ago, I think, and it got kicked back in the comments. But I genuinely think that the curse of lottery winners, like people, like I say, getting money is valuable, right? Just having money, just like having it fall in your lap, is such a curse. Like some people have this hedonistic adjustment. All of a sudden, they're like, "Oh my god, Lamborghinis, big cars, Bentleys, big houses, flash hotels, travel," and then they're like, "Oh, why am I still sad?" Like because you didn't earn it, right? And all of a sudden, you have this hedonistic adjustment, and things that used to make you happy. You're just like, oh, And like I said to you, like I said before, I genuinely think my gratitude journal has brought me more joy than a lottery win would have done.
Yeah. I think gratitude, that's like that old saying, if you're not thankful for what you have now, you'll never be thankful for what you have later. So gratitude is like the ultimate thing. And I have this like book called The Secret. There's like The Secret, The Power, and The Promise or something like that. There are 3 different like things, but the secret is gratitude. It's literally just gratitude. So like people who practice gratitude often get the things that they want in the end because they're good stewards of whatever it is that they are given. They appreciate it. It would be like if you had like a friend in a relationship or whatever, and you're just like, I don't care about that person. Why would they stick around, right? And money and anything that you have in your life is just energy, and energy needs to be like appreciated, right? So I think gratitude is super important. I know it helped me when I was having super bad nerve pain. Like I was just like, I'm so glad that I can feel all the way down to my chest for this too. Fucking drive me crazy.
Oh, thanks for the shout out, by the way. That was really nice that you gave me like 2 little shout outs in the video. I was like, oh, that's really nice. Yeah.
Well, it really was. I like said to Joe, I was like, gratitude. Like Fred says, gratitude. It was like, it's been really helpful having a constant reminder of your gratitude practice. And even though I've always had like, an informal gratitude practice, it's been for sure more steady and more intentional since knowing you, just because you're talking about it all the time, right? So
yeah, nice. So what we were going to talk about was ways that we use our disabilities as excuses not to do things versus actual things that we can't do because of our disability. So I'm sure that a lot of people that watch this can relate to it. People with disabilities. Sometimes we use our disabilities as excuses to not do stuff, and sometimes we're like, they're not real. You can really do that. You're just using that as an excuse. And then sometimes the opposite happens. There's actual things that we can't do because of our disability. And I want to give you an example, something that I was going to talk about last week, but I didn't. As we spoke about before, I have a dream of becoming a magician, even just an amateur magician or any sort of magician, just someone who does magic, a hobbyist, or even like a paid gigging magician. And Chris is a caterer, and she caters, like does private catering gigs. So she was like, oh, I'm going to offer, hey, do you guys want a magician? And all of a sudden I felt like a lot of, oh my God, this gig is tomorrow. Could I actually, put enough magic tricks together to form a routine to go and perform to these people? And it was a good sort of pressure. It was like, oh my God, wow, like my first magic gig is tomorrow. Wow, this is wild. And that put the right sort of pressure on me. I was like, oh, okay, let's go, baby, let's go. And then they messaged back saying, "Oh, I'm really sorry, but we're up 3 flights of stairs with no lift, so I don't think we can have a wheelchair magician." And I was like, "Oh shit!" And I felt a mixture of relief of like, "Oh,
Yeah.
thank goodness, that pressure is off me," but like, shit, I had no idea that my disability was going to hold me back from being a magician. I'm
Yeah.
doing sleight of hand and misdirection, baby. Like, how is that? How is the wheelchair? But like, obviously, you have to go to where the people are, and if they're up 3 flights of stairs with no lift, then I can't do magic. And it was a very conflicting feeling of like, that sucks big time. Did not see that coming. That hurts. And also, what a relief that I don't have to do that. But it was like, I kind of wanted to be pushed out of my comfort zone. Because
Yeah.
no matter what happened, it would have been good. Even if it was a complete failure, it would have been a huge learning experience for me. But the fact that it got taken away from me because of something that I couldn't help about myself sucked.
Yeah. This reminds me of so many times that I've gone like to places with my kids that I'm like, oh, where I'm like pumped. I just go to the place and then I get there. And this was like when Jamie would be like 4 or 5 years old or something. And it would be up a giant flight of stairs. And I'm like, it's not I can't, not be a mom. And because I'm in a wheelchair, I can't do the things that other moms are doing with their kids because I'm in a wheelchair. Like, it was so frustrating. I remember there was like a book fair at the school, and I took Jamie when she was in first grade, and it's just a fundraiser for the school where they buy books, but they put it in like the music room, which is on risers, like all these weird risers, and all the books were up this like flight of stairs. And obviously my kids could go up there and look at the books and stuff, but I like got in there and I was just like, I was so mad. And I'm just like, I literally volunteer in this school all the time. I did like the reading program in my son's 3rd grade class. I'm like, why would you put this in this dumb location? I'm like, you have like a million places you could have put this book fair, but you put it in this ridiculous place that I can't even get in. And then everybody was like, I was in the way, like in this weird, awkward spot, and people were coming in. They were like, oh, do you need help? And I'm like, help to do what? Get me up every single one of the stairs. And then when I'm ready to look at another book, you'd be like, excuse me, can you come lift me to the next level? Like, no, you just wouldn't ask that. So then, yeah, you just can't do certain things. And it's like, I don't know how to describe it. Everybody here that has a disability knows what we're talking about. That feeling of being like, I can do this thing, but it's my disability that's preventing me from getting to where I need to go to do the thing. And it's so frustrating. Like, it's maddening. I don't know. It just makes you sad. But there's plenty of times that your wheelchair isn't an excuse. And sure, there's plenty of people that'll say, well, why didn't you take the help that people were offering to lift you up every one of those stairs? And I'm like, is that, you know what I mean? Do you feel good about that? No.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to give an example of the things that the things that I use, for example, my disability as an excuse.
Yeah.
So Chris says to me, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Since we've been living together, she's like, you're always here. You're a bit of a homebody. You don't get out that much. And you don't really have that many friends. Like, you have poker night and you've started going to a quiz night on a Thursday. But generally speaking, you're always here. And, this is her space. And it's noticeable, that, every time she comes home, look who's here, So I use my disability as an excuse, because I'm like, oh, well, before I was out biking all the time in the summer, and in the winter I was out snowboarding all the time, I was out loads. The truth is, I have a bike, a wheelchair bike. Obviously, it's not quite as fun as downhill mountain biking. That was adrenaline-filled, thrilling, beautiful, amazing, I can go swimming, and I've actually learned that I can ride my bike to the pool. Weird thing. I was like a bit paranoid about taking my outdoor wheelchair in the pool because I thought that the wheels were muddy, but they doesn't, when it turns out if it doesn't rain for a few days, then my wheels aren't muddy. So I can cycle to the pool, do my own little triathlon, come back. But yeah, these are things that I use my disability as an excuse. Like, oh yeah, I'm home all the time, but I'm in a wheelchair, look where we live.
Yeah.
And while it's an excuse, it's not a very good excuse. And the thing that she said about my social circle getting smaller, that definitely has happened since stop. Like, for example, before my accident, I worked in a bar, very central in Morzine. People would come into the bar, they'd be like, hey, Fredo, hey, and people would know me, and they still know me, but I just don't hang around in those places anymore. I don't drink alcohol, I don't really go out that much. So there are things that, I'm sort of I've hammered home the point. So that's one
Yeah.
of the things that, can you think of something that you use your disability as an excuse?
One of them, you talked about the pool, is not going swimming with my kids because I'm like, I don't want to get in my swimsuit. I don't want to get wet. I don't want to have to peel my swimsuit off. I don't want to I have done that so many times where I'm just like, I don't want to go in the water. So I just like sit watching them when it's like fun to actually go in the water sometimes. But yeah, so swimming, anything that requires me like changing my clothes a bunch of times, I'm like, oh, and I use my disability as an excuse for that. I'm trying to think of like I try not to make my disability an excuse as much as possible, but there's definitely things that I do make my disability an excuse for. And it's mostly little things that I like expect Joe to do for me or the kids to do for me that I can totally do myself. And I'm just like, it's faster. It's so much faster. And it's not really an excuse, and they tolerate it a lot because it is faster for them. And sometimes they want to be faster too. You know what I mean? Like if we stop at the store and I'm like, okay, I'll run in. They're like, no, it takes you so long to get out of the car. I'm running in. So sometimes they do it too. But yeah, I'll use my disability and excuse for anything that seems like tedious for me to accomplish. And I'm like, oh, I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, I guess my kickback there would be going to the pool. It doesn't take me very long at all now because I do it like 3 times a week, maybe more, right? So the more you do something, the more you quicker you get out of your swimsuit, the quicker you'll find like little techniques like, oh yeah, like I don't know exactly what your situation would be like, but yeah, for me, doing something more and more often, you get way quicker at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are certainly things that I use my disability as an excuse for, and there are some things that are like very real, like stairs and stuff like that. So
totally. I used to make my disability an excuse for not being able to make friends because even though I'm very social now, and if you met me now, you would never be like, oh, she was like shy and scared. I wasn't before my accident, but after I was hurt, I had the same group of friends in a very small town, had a boyfriend all the time who was with me no matter where I went. I never went anywhere alone. And then when I went to university, I did not make not one friend in like 6 years.
Wow.
I'm not joking. Well, I made some people that made friends that I talked to at school. But I didn't actually have any lasting friends like you would hope to have from university because I just told myself that nobody wanted to hang around with somebody in a wheelchair. Nobody wants to invite somebody in a wheelchair for drinks. Nobody, and then, yeah, I had to have like a weird, after I like broke up with my boyfriend and started having to be more independent and going out and realizing, oh, like after I broke up with my boyfriend, people like guys are asking me out. And like, I didn't think I was attractive as somebody in a wheelchair, but it was just because I had a boyfriend everywhere. Do you know what I mean? And so it was like after that, I kind of got more confident socially. And then I just like faked it forever where I'm just like, I'm just going to pretend like I'm confident. And then I eventually became confident. And now I'm like, I freaking love my wheelchair. Everybody remembers me. Jacob has a friend that is sort of more than a friend. Now, maybe, I don't know if I should talk about this on here, but anyway, she's a really nice girl that he's been hanging out with. And I was like, you should tell her I'm in a wheelchair because she was going to come over to our house for the first time. And he was like, I said, did you tell her I'm in a wheelchair? And he goes, no, I didn't, but she knows you're in a wheelchair. And I'm like, oh, how does she know I'm in a wheelchair? And he's like, you taught her before. And I'm like, what? He's like, nice. Yeah, you taught her in junior high, apparently. And I'm like, oh, I love that about being in a wheelchair. People are like, she meets my son in high school, finds out his last name. She's like, your mom's a teacher. I remember her. She's in a wheelchair. And like, I'm like, oh, I didn't have to tell that. So Jacob's always like annoyed at everywhere I go. Somebody in the grocery store is like, I was in the dollar store the other day and a lady was like, I parked beside you when our kids both went to elementary school in like, this was like 6 years ago. We used to park beside each other. And I'm like, oh, nice. So yeah, I love that now. Like I'm confident totally about my wheelchair and I love it. But I used to make my wheelchair a huge excuse for not making friends and not being comfortable in social situations. Really, it was just me. It wasn't my wheelchair. Nobody cares about my wheelchair.
Yeah. Absolutely. I want to take this moment before we transition into the next bit of the podcast to prompt everybody who's watching live. There's 35 of you at the moment. If you have any questions that you want us to answer, pop them in the comments. Or if you've used your disability as an excuse, we want to hear what the excuse was.
Yes.
And if there's any actual things that prevented you from doing anything, we want to hear that as well.
Yeah, and we'll
So
read them when if you
we'll
guys put
read
them in,
them.
and we'll read them. That you sounded right then like you were ready to set up a sponsorship ad. You're like, I want to take a moment right now, and I was like, oh my god, he's gonna talk about like our first sponsorship. Just joking. It was like really
No,
funny though. That
this
was
podcast is sponsored by Magic, and that's it.
yeah. Um,
Sarah says that's insane. What would happen if a kid in a wheelchair went to that book fair?
That's what I always say because I have been in the school system in Alberta where I live as a kid in a wheelchair, as a teacher in a wheelchair, and as a parent in a wheelchair. And I'm like, we need to do better. Like seriously better when there's so many things that are just not right. Like, I don't know. And I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. This school division is awesome. But sometimes they are just I'm like, why do you think that's okay? Like in the accessible bathroom in one of the portable like classrooms that I teach in, the window to the playground is like low to where you're going to the bathroom. I'm like, who designed this? I'm like, I went to the principal. I'm like, the bathroom where I have to pee literally faces the schoolyard where kids are playing.
Wow.
And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, you've never noticed that before? And he's like, no, nobody's ever really said anything. And I'm like, well, obviously nobody uses the handicap washroom because it's got a window in it, except I can't use any other one. So I'm like, I may have traumatized some students going to the bathroom. So you might want to put some frosted glass. I'm just like, what? But things like that are just crazy. Crazy.
Nice. We also have a comment from Greg, who I think might have missed the beginning of the podcast where I said it was a deliberately provocative title.
Yeah.
He says, here's the truth. Everything you do when you're paralyzed is twice as hard as when you were able-bodied. So no, paralysis is not easy. Yeah. No shit, Greg. Yeah, that was, we'd covered that earlier, but I appreciate your input, man. It was, we were basically saying, if you missed the beginning and you're still here, we were just saying that if it was just paralysis, it would be a hell of a lot easier than all the secondary complications that come with paralysis.
Totally. I just want to read this comment out. Brittney, licorice root is traditionally used as an expectorant to help relieve things like cough, bronchitis, mucus buildup. It can loosen the mucus. Get some from a health food store. So I want to tell you a little story about the licorice. So I love licorice tea, and I was like, I'm just going to drink it every day, all day, 4 cups a day, not realizing that licorice root has something in it. I can't even say the name. It's like glycerin or something like that. And it messes up your sodium to potassium balance. And it dangerously increases your blood pressure and reduces your potassium to the point that you can like have a heart attack and die. Or you can get congestive heart failure. So I was having massive my blood pressure was so high, like 160, 170 over 90. And I thought I was having autonomic dysreflexia. I'm like, what's going on? I kept going to the hospital. They're like, you seem fine. Nothing's wrong. And then like just randomly one day, I like read the package of licorice tea and it's like, nobody should take this with high blood pressure. And like, I'm like, what? Why not? So I like read about it. And then I go on the internet and it's like, never drink more than 1 cup of licorice tea a day. Never drink every day for long periods of time. Like people can die from this. And I actually in the hospital, they're like, the only thing we can find is extremely low potassium. And so I almost killed myself. No joke. Had I kept drinking licorice tea for like another month, I probably would have gone into congestive heart failure. My blood pressure was so out of whack. So if you're going to use licorice tea when you have a cold, use it as a medicinal thing. Don't just drink 4 cups a day like I was. So I just wanted to warn anybody who was reading that comment and it's like, oh, I'm going to go get some licorice tea to cure my cold. Don't kill yourself.
I think using things in moderation is just it's just the key to life. Moderation is key. Everything in moderation, including moderation. But it's funny that you're like, 4 cups a day, and I'm like, ah.
I just really love licorice tea. Like it tastes so good. It's like licorice root has like this natural sweetness. And it's like, it's delicious if you like licorice. So I was just like, I drunk it all day long. It was so crazy. And it's funny that the doctors never once asked about like anything that I was eating or drinking or supplements or anything. They were just like, I don't know, you're probably fine. And I wasn't fine. It's crazy.
Nice. So before we get into the questions and comments, do you want to do a magic trick?
Yes. Let's do it.
Okay, wunderbar. Right, okay, so here we go. Let's have a quick look, see if I can angle it Where is it? Right, okay, so listen, I've got my wallet here, and I've got 4 cards in my wallet, Brittany,
Okay.
and they are 4 queens. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that we're going to take the black queens and we're going to take the red queens. Now, which ones do you want to take out of the pack?
Do I tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, the red ones.
Take the red ones out. Okay, excellent. So now we're left holding the 2 red queens. We've got the Queen of Diamonds and the Queen of Hearts. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn one of them upside down and slide it back in. Okay? Now, which one would you like to choose?
The Queen of Hearts, because that's the one that was in the hand that you like put in.
Are you sure?
I think so.
Would you like to change your mind?
No.
Okay, excellent. Well, here's the thing. Right, so I'm going to take the cards out now.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can see that one of the cards is turned over in the pack, and it just happens to be the Queen of Hearts.
Ah.
Which is wild, right? But in fact, I was so confident that you was going to pick the Queen of Hearts that it's the only red card in the pack.
I
was so confident that you were going to pick the Queen of Hearts that actually I didn't actually bring any other queens at all.
What? I don't think I don't understand this mentalism stuff. I should have changed my mind.
You could have
I'm changing my mind.
Time.
Oh, I don't get it. I was trying. This is the thing that I don't get, because I'm concentrating. I'm concentrating on which hand he's flipping over with the imaginary cards, and then, that's cool. I love that.
Good.
The mentalism ones are the best. Yeah.
Ah, excellent. There you go. Always good to get a good reaction. Now let's get to the chat. Sonia has a question. I would love to learn from Britt how to fake confidence, because my massive social phobia keeps me from even meeting my friends for years now. So
one of the things that I had to do is practice what I would say to somebody if I were going up to somebody, like sitting at a table of people, like being like, hey, can I sit with you guys? Or something like that. Do you mind if I sit here? Those kinds of conversations that are awkward if you're going into a place where you don't know anybody. So I practiced introductions and how I would go about doing that. And then that was like a huge one. And the rest of it is just think of what this is what I did, because I was very confident when I was able-bodied. I would imagine what I would do as my able-bodied self and just ignore that I was in a wheelchair. How would I react in this situation if I were able-bodied? And just do it even in the wheelchair. So those were like my 2 strategies, because the thing that was most terrifying to me was like introducing myself or having to sit somewhere with somebody that I didn't know. And even now, that's still kind of scary. Like I went to a friend's birthday party that was huge at like a big country club, and I thought there was going to be lots of people in wheelchairs there. And there wasn't. There was like her family, all these work colleagues over the years, like her husband's friends. And I was like, oh my God, there's nobody I know here. So I was just like, I don't know where I'm supposed to sit. So I just like went up to a table and I was like, hey, is this seat taken? Do you mind if I sit here? And then they were like, oh no, absolutely. And then I ended up meeting the most amazing people that I still talk to today. Like I got all their numbers and I still interact with these people that I went to this birthday party with. So yeah, just practice introductions. And if it's you going with people you already know, then I think it's more just about ignoring the bad thoughts you have in your head about what's going to go wrong. Cause I had to do that a lot too. And I welcome the bad thoughts. I'm like, okay, you can have 10 minutes to tell me all the shit that's going to go bad in this social situation. And then I'm going to say, thank you, not helpful. And I'm going to be like, it's going to go great. Yeah. And one other tip is asking for help. So if there's like stairs or a bump up into something, I've perfected ways of asking for help to get people to bump me upstairs and stuff like that too, because that was always really nerve-wracking for me. So those are my tips. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. And the more shit you fail at, then you're like, oh, I should have handled this in this situation better. Because there's times that I have failed miserably in social situations and I've been like, oh my God, that was terrible. But you just have to keep going. You can't let that one failure stop you from trying again. So
yeah, absolutely. I would say exactly what Brittney said. Have like a couple of canned responses or like canned openers with you. Like for example, I'd say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I don't think we've met yet. I'm Fred."
Yes, exactly.
And that's it kind of gives the impression that other people, but we just haven't met yet. Oh, I don't think we've met yet. I'm Fred, and that's easy. Boom. You can say, I don't know. We haven't met yet. I'm Sonia.
Yeah.
And then that'll be good. And then you just try and be interested in other people. I guess ask
Yes.
questions. And
Good tip.
yeah, I think, and also like Brittney said, like failure. Like for example, I've been to use magic as an example. I had a trick go terribly wrong recently, and I was like, "Oh my god, I've been doing that trick so wrong the entire time. Like the misdirection was so,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You learn a lot from failures. So even if you go up and you make a twat of yourself, which I don't think is very likely, you'll be like, I know exactly what not to do next time, even though that might fill you with fear. You're just getting valuable feedback for future interactions, what to do and what not to do, really. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Exposure. It's truly exposure that makes you feel more comfortable at anything. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. I can literally think of some failures that I had more in like public speaking situations, but like I've thought of some like abysmal failures where I'm like, I literally went to the bathroom, went to my car. I'm like, I'm going home. This is bullshit. I'm such an idiot. I'm never doing this again. And then I like take 2 breaths. I'm like, okay, back at it. Let's go back out there and make fun of myself or something because it's embarrassing. But yeah, I just exposure.
There you go. Jay says, never pick the Queen of Hearts.
That is all. It is. The Queen of Hearts is a very like popular.
It is. Oh, I forgot to mention. Goodness me, I was swimming earlier, and I remember thinking when I introduce the magic, I'm going to say I dedicate this magic trick to my latest patron member. Nolan Watson, he's just joined, and he sent me a lovely message saying he loves the podcast. He doesn't catch it live, but he really likes the magic. And I was like, I'm going to dedicate the magic trick to him, so I forgot. But so retroactively, that magic trick was for you, Nolan, and I appreciate you being a new member of the Patreon, and welcome. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Oh, I just thought of one more tip, Sonia, and it's like backpacking off of what Fred said about find other people interesting. I let other people lead conversations so much if I'm feeling uncomfortable. So I will just constantly ask them questions about anything like, what do you do for work? Or where did you get that shirt? I really like that. Or, where did you grow up? Where do you live now? What brought you to the city you live in now? Are you married? Do you have kids? Like I have so many questions that I can ask somebody, and no joke. Like I was getting my tires done the other day and I found out this guy was married twice. I found out like the 4 jobs that he did in his life. I found out like his heritage. It was crazy the amount of shit I found out in like 20 minutes. And it was all because I constantly ask people questions, and people love talking about themselves. So if you are uncomfortable, make somebody else feel interesting. And it's usually a great way to make them feel great too. So then A, you're winning socially, and B, you're not talking about yourself at all.
Yeah, 100%. There's a really great book called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, yeah.
By Dale Carnegie. Absolute classic. I read that book so many times.
It is a good book.
That I kind of like internalized it. It's really nice. So yeah, ask people about themselves. They like chatting about each other, themselves. Sorry. I remember I was on a plane once, and on a plane, you're not in a wheelchair, right? And I got chatting to these people for ages, and I was like chatting back and forth, and I made a pretty good impression on them just because I kept asking them about themselves. They saw me later on in the airport and they were like, oh, that dude's in a wheelchair. Because they hadn't asked anything about me, so I hadn't like disclosed the main thing that people like notice about me, and they were like, oh, that dude's in a wheelchair, no way. Like we were chatting to him for like 2 hours.
I know. I genuinely love learning about people though. It's one of my favorite things. Like I loved anthropology, like in school, when we learned about like ancient like cultures and like how they differences in like tool making and stuff like that. Like I genuinely love what makes people tick. So I will ask people questions about themselves all the time. If I go to like a Christmas party at Joe's work, he'll be like, I've worked with that person for 12 years and I didn't know anything that you just learned. And I'm like, what do you do? Like on their, I'm like, don't you ask people that you work with any questions? He's like, no. Not at all. I'm like, that's so weird, because I will ask somebody in the grocery store line 10 questions if I'm sitting there with them long enough. Like it's jam.
Yeah, I guess it's like muscle memory. The more you do it, the more you do. Yeah, like
exactly.
And like you say, you have to fake confidence, right? So I guess you just I don't know. But this one is really funny from Marco. Make parties more interesting by telling someone, I want you to know that personally, I have no problem with you being here. That's a good one.
And then they'll be like, "Do you know me from somewhere? Like, what the
Yeah,
hell?"
yeah.
Oh, that's really funny. Yeah, I'm not. I think that that is one of the best things you can do for yourself is to practice your confidence because it's a muscle.
Mm.
Um, and just do things that make you scared, like all the time. Like I can't even imagine. Like I couldn't even imagine 5 years ago doing this on like live. Like it would have.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I would have puked. It was just awful. I remember I accidentally pressed the live button on Instagram stories like 5 years ago. And I was like, no, no, how do I turn this off? Like I didn't know what to do. And then
Yeah.
like I turned it off, but it recorded it and automatically posted it. And then like everybody was like laughing at me, like, oh, and it was like terrible.
That's
So
funny.
yeah.
All right, no one else.
Marco says, I'm a
What?
big proponent. Oh, sorry, I put that down. I'm a big proponent of staying in your comfort zone. Some days, yes.
You're on fire today, Marco.
You are really funny.
Yes, if there aren't any more comments, we're about an hour in. I don't know whether to say this or not. I've got two more little anecdotes that I wanted to chat to you about, but maybe I'll chat to you offline. But about one of them. But I've got one. I've got one. If there's no more, if there's no more questions, feel free to put the questions in. But
Yeah.
something funny happened yesterday, right? And we're at the end of the podcast, so it's unlikely that Chris will listen to this. But if she does,
oh, you're so brave.
right? So, well, she's definitely not listening to it live. And also, I've come to the realization that now I'm here like a lot, and we interact all the time. The last thing she wants to do, is when I'm not here, is listen to me talk on a bloody podcast. You know what I mean? So I'm pretty sure I'm safe. But there was a moment yesterday. So I'll give you some background. Chris has been in pain a lot this week. She's had some lower back pain. She works in catering. She's been working at this place that's up 3 flights of stairs. She's been in a lot of pain. And also it's that time of the month where she's a little extra sensitive. So, she was going out with the dog, right? And she was going out with her van, right? And I said, oh, so do you want to take the bins? Because, I'll tie them up. It's fine. And she was like, oh, okay, fine. And then I said, and take the recycling. She's like, oh, do I have to take the recycling as well? To paint a picture, right? The bins are right next to each other, literally, and the bags are the same size. There's the rubbish bag, a 30-liter bin bag of rubbish, and a 30-liter bin bag of recycling. So it's like nothing, right? And I was like, do you know what? It doesn't matter. I'll do it. Not a problem. I can see that you're in pain. Not a problem. She's like, oh, okay. And I was like, where's my green tray? My green basket thing. She's like, oh, I think it's in the van. And as she's walking to the van, I'm like, you're going to the van anyway, right? Like, just take the bins. Anyway, didn't say anything. So she comes back and there's stuff in the tray. So she has to put the things from the tray away to give me the tray to take the bins. And I'm like, all of the time this is happening, I'm like, less effort just to take the bins. Anyway,
that's funny.
So I get the bins
really
in the car, right? And just to paint a picture for everyone, she's driving past the bins, right, to take the dog for a walk. She doesn't use a wheelchair. I have to put my wheelchair in the car, drive to the bins, which she's about to drive past in 30 seconds, assemble my wheelchair, get the bins, put them in, and then, do all of that in reverse to get back here. And I put the bins in the car, and she's like, she just gets in the van, and I was like, so you're actually going to let me go to the bins then? And she's like, oh, what do you mean? And I'm like, okay, I'm just saying, I just thought that, were you actually going to let me go to the bins then? Okay, well, I thought that, maybe at one point during this charade, you might have just been like, you know what, I'll just take the bins. But she actually let me go to the bins. I was like, what are you, crazy woman? Unbelievable. The amount of extra effort is unreasonable. But, like I say, there are some tensions recently from living together and being under the same roof and, time of the month and everything. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to have to laugh at this and swallow it because this is, I don't want to start an argument over this, but I couldn't believe it.
That's actually really funny. The fact that she had to walk back and forth to get the thing that you put the bins in. and then she drove by them, like, instead of just, okay, that's actually really funny.
If the roles were reversed, that would be borderline domestic abuse. Imagine
I'm
Joe
like,
doing that to you.
you know what? There's been times that like I've done stupid, crazy shit, like moved a deep freeze by myself, and then he gets home and he's like, "What the f were you doing?" I'm like, I didn't want to wait till you got home, so I moved the deep freeze from like this side of the basement into the laundry room, moved it around, and then the next day my shoulder was so sore because in order to move the deep freeze, which is extremely heavy, I had to wedge myself in between a wall and like push on this side of the wall and then push the deep freeze. And he was just like, "You are so dumb." And he was like so mad at me. But he almost like won't let me do stuff for fear I'm going to hurt myself. So yeah, it would be like, it would be funny if it was reversed. And
Right,
the guy
it
was,
would be.
no, people would think you were crazy. If you were, you were a man and you were just like, let the woman in a wheelchair get in and out of her. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
People would think I was a monster. They'd be like, he's a monster. Look at him. He's just letting her do that. And I'm like, really? Okay, fine. No worries. Like, you're literally driving past the bins.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, we're going to chalk it up to the fact that she had her period. Because we're a little crazy when we have our periods. Like, no joke. I'm a little crazy when I have my period anyway. Like, I will, if you look at me wrong, I'm going to murder you when I have my period. So.
Yep. And there's no escape now. There's no escape for me. You know, I'm here. So if she's having a period, we're having a period.
Exactly. Joe just knows. So I can tell I'm going to get my period. Because like this week, I'm like so irritated about like the dumbest shit. So I know that it's like coming next week sometime. And now well, I shouldn't maybe say this, but it doesn't matter. Now there's 2 women in the house who have periods. So it's like really, really great for both me and Jamie, and it's great for the men in the house too. So we can both be irritated as shit at almost the same time.
Trust me, we know. I had the most hilarious phone call with Benji last night, and I swear it would have made the best podcast in the world. It would have made the best. It would have been like a stand-up comedy set. It was hilarious.
That's awesome.
It was too personal, but it was so funny. It was so relatable. It was. Yeah, he was exchanging similar anecdotes, and we were like, man, you know, life is hard. That there's a time of the month. We know, you know, and it's just like, hurry up and you get.
Well, just so you know, if it's hard for you to be around the person that's bitchy, imagine when you are bleeding out of the most annoying spot in the world and you have to stick shit up it in order to stop the bleeding, or just clean it all up when it just comes out if you're wearing a pad. So it's really annoying. It's really uncomfortable. And we annoy ourselves. We're like emotional to ourselves. But it's like, yeah, it's actually not that annoying. It just is like, it's just one of those things that you're like, especially if you're in a wheelchair. You're like, I mean, why do I have to have another thing that's coming out down there that I have to worry about when I'm cathing? Like, it's just annoying.
I get it. There was another thing, which I'm not going to say, but there was an argument that we had, and the way I explained it to Benji, it was just hilarious. Like the kinship, the understanding of just like, you can't win an argument with logic, even if it makes perfect common sense. If the other person is highly emotional, because you can't win you can't win an emotional argument with logic. No. Even though it makes sense. You're losing. And I'm like,
I'm gonna say that with women, you really aren't ever gonna win an argument logically, because especially when I'm arguing, I could be wrong entirely and I will still argue till I'm blue in the face. I will bring up other things that make me feel like I'm on top. It is just, I'm terrible in that way. But one thing I will say, as I've been trying to tell Joe this lately, is that when I am triggered, don't push the buttons anymore. Like, if I am triggered, the thing that you need to do is be like, you know what? I will be as helpful as I can right now because you're being triggered. And I'll try to do the same with him. If I see he's triggered, I'm not going to be like, you know what? Now's the time to tell him that the baseboard over there needs to get replaced or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just like, when I'm triggered, don't fucking bug me and don't say shit that's going to make it worse. So as a woman, I will say for Chris, that she was triggered. So you just let that one go.
Absolutely. I have to remember, if she says something completely unreasonable, I'm like, let this one slide. In 2 weeks, if we have the same argument, I will fire back.
Exactly.
But like this one, I'll let it slide. Harmony in my relationship is way more important than being right on this occasion.
Yeah. Marco says, so how do CEOs or women with CEOs or presidents do it? Like, be logical. Okay. I want to tell you that it's so much easier to reduce your emotional, like bandwidth or whatever, like when you are with somebody that is not your significant other. Like, there's just some safety there about being a lunatic when you're with your significant other, that they're going to forgive you, because they want to boink you in like, a week from now. So they're going to be like, it's fine. I still love you. Can we please have sex at some point in the next little while? You know what I mean? And so they're going to love you no matter what. So you can act crazier around your husband, spouse, partner than you can around other people. And that's actually a good thing, because if you start seeing a woman's crazy, that means you're safe, because women don't act crazy around men who aren't safe. So you're a safe person, Fred. And I know this because I know many, many women. And if you aren't safe, you don't put your crazy out generally, unless there's some, you're both crazy and you're both gonna do dumb things kind of thing, right? But yeah, Joe sees my crazy. Nobody else does. I'm so non-confrontational with people, like, at all. And I will fight with Joe till the day I die, probably. So
lucky Joe.
Yeah, and lucky you are now in the safety zone of like, I love this person so much,
amazing.
And I know that they love me, that I'm going to be crazy around them.
I'm so privileged to be in the inner circle.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Anyway, let's wrap it up. Thank you to everyone here listening. Thank you to everyone on Patreon. Thank you to everyone around the world. Yeah, and thanks for all your lovely comments. And I guess we'll see you next week. Oh, there's something I want to talk to you about. A bit juicy, but I'll talk to you offline about it. And then if it turns out to be what I think it is, then we'll talk about it next week. There you go. There's a little hook for next week.
There's a little hook, okay.
Juice. Okay.
Okay, see you guys next week.
See you later, everybody. Bye.
Bye.